Hello and welcome to the Perspectives podcast at Orchard Hill Church. If you've never joined us before, this is just a chance for us to sit down and talk about some topics that people have different opinions on. And it's a good chance for us to talk, learn how to have conversation about these things, and give you hopefully something to hold on to from here on out. So my name is Jenna Bajuszik, and I am joined here by Pastor Kurt Bjorklund. You've probably seen his face before. And today we are going to be...
Before you jump into it.
Oh man, I thought it was just jumping.
I know. Before you do.
Okay.
So Jenna has been part of our team here, staff team, for 16 years.
Yes.
And is transitioning at the end of this year, transitioning to a new role. Let's be very clear how we say that. Tell us what you're going to do and what you're excited about, just so, we get a chance to hear that.
A few years ago, I had kind of been doing all versions of kids and student ministry across a couple different campuses. And I had spent so many hours across Starbucks tables with so many people that I did not have the skills to continue to help kids, parents, going through all sorts of stuff. And so in the fall of 2021, I started my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I've been doing that in the margins a little bit of my life for a few years now.
Between raising kids, working full time, a few other things.
I haven't
House renovations.
I haven't slept a lot. So starting in 2025, I will be moving into a full-time counseling role at another local place around here. So I'm really excited about this new part of feeling like I can help people with skills that I didn't have before, and really still continuing to be a part of helping families grow and individuals too, and being kind of like the next step on that journey with them. I'm really excited about it.
We're excited for you and thankful for the years you've invested in students, kids here at Orchard Hill, and know just the impact you have made on really generations of students. I mean, to spend 16 years doing something with students is such a gift to a church, that continuity and longevity and investment. So thank you, and we're excited for you.
Well, thanks for making it the kind of place where I'd want to stay for 16 years.
Well, good.
So appreciate that. But no, my employment can drive, and now we're pulling out of the driveway, and it's going to be good. Before we get there, though, we're going to talk about contentious family conversations. What a transition. So with a little bit of my I bumped my microphone. Sorry about that. So with a little bit of background that I've got with the mental health counseling, the pastoral role we have from Kurt, we know that if you are the average person, there's going to be some family, friends, something gathering over the next holiday season where you're going to run into people that have very, very different views than you, and sometimes that's fine. And sometimes it can get a little contentious. And so we're going to have a little chat about some ways to navigate that as you continue to honor God. So before we get into it, we're going to see, I have a few fun questions, and we're going to see if we can agree on some things. I will say that if you know either Kurt or I very well, you're just going to have to trust that our handwriting says what we're saying it says, because we're good at other things. I'm not asking you to draw those, so that's good.
That's very good. Good for everyone.
Okay, so Kurt, I want you to write down your favorite Thanksgiving side dish. Ready, set,
Sure.
go.
Stuffing.
Stuffing?
Oh, absolutely.
I wrote multiple kinds of potatoes.
Okay.
I want
every
regular
kind of potato that you can get.
Look, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, stacked potatoes with thyme. If you're making mashed potatoes, you have to have at least 2 sticks of butter in them.
Oh yeah. I mean,
stuffing?
Stuffing's awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
If you
All
say
right,
so.
so we're 0 for 1.
Okay. Proper holiday meal attire.
I said above PE clothes.
And I wrote stretchy pants. If the whole point is that you're eating,
Yes, you want stretchy
you
pants.
gotta be.
But that's where
ready
you
to
may have some
accommodate.
advantages, not to over genderize, but men can't really wear stretchy pants that are anything other than PE clothes. And by that I mean physical education,
No.
workout clothes. Whereas there's some stylish options for women where you can wear, something that's stretchy and still looks like you're not ready to go to the gym.
I think you need to go shopping because I think there's more options than you might think that you have.
For men, really?
Just Google it. Okay, when do you start playing Christmas music?
Right about that. I don't. My wife does, and that's enough for me.
You don't.
I don't have a Christmas playlist. Maybe the week of a little bit, but that's it. Yeah, because I get enough of it between my wife and other people. How about you?
Day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's our put up the Christmas tree day. If we're home, that's when things go. I mean, it is full on.
Okay.
My kids wake
Yeah.
up to the Justin Bieber Christmas album and pancakes.
Yeah, and we'll have it on, but I won't put it on.
You don't.
Like I won't. So when we decorate for Christmas, which we decorating for Christmas is a bit of a misnomer also. I get boxes out of the attic and bring them down.
It's an important job. It's an important job.
And then
someone's got to do it.
I help get up the trees, and that's kind of where my job ends. But there's Christmas music playing.
I married into a family where there's a specific album we have to play while we're decorating
the Justin
Christmas.
Bieber.
No, it's the Alabama Christmas album.
Okay, so you had Alabama Christmas and Justin Bieber in the same day.
It's about the variety.
Okay.
It's about the variety.
I can't say I've ever heard the Alabama Christmas album.
You are missing out on some bangers. Okay. Concern for your decision-making skills.
All right,
okay.
so we're, just for the record, we're like 0 for 3 so far. Whatever this is.
I'm really questioning some things about you today. Okay, Black Friday weekend shopping. Like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, all the things, opinions on it. We match!
No,
Okay, we got one.
Right, there
Yay.
It is.
Why not?
Why? Why? I'm also, so again, my wife does probably most of our Christmas shopping.
It's probably the best for everyone involved.
So, and she probably won't listen to this, but you can tell her if you talk to her, that's a control issue on her part. I would be happy to do more of it, but she wants control of the gifts and how that goes.
Is there maybe a reason why she would need to have the
it's
control?
okay. I'm not unhappy with the setup,
Okay.
but I'm happy to do more to make it easier on her.
Yes.
So I really buy for her. I buy a little bit for my kids, my mom, and a few other people. And I'll buy all through the year if I see something. So I don't wait till the end of the year. So I don't feel any pressure for the Cyber Monday, Black Friday thing. How about you? Why are you no?
It's too stressful. I don't like going shopping in store regularly. But it's like the pressure of like you have to get it on this and the sale's only for these hours. It just it's icky.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Okay.
But my husband's also a much better shopper than I am. But so if there's something that I know is going to be on sale,
if I was buying a big ticket item,
then yes,
I would think about it.
Or if there's a specific thing that I know I want to get.
But we don't do big ticket items for Christmas shopping anyway. It's more like, here's a sweater. I mean, we do some things that are, but it's, so anyway, it's not like I'm buying a TV or, a iPad or something as a typical.
Well, hey, we got one we agree on.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to do one last one. And it is, I really need you to be honest about this.
Of course. Like I wouldn't be.
The best part of...
I may not answer.
What is your favorite part of Orchard Hill Christmas Eve services?
Oh. Candles.
I wrote the sermon because I thought that's what you were going to write.
You were trying to, the sermon. I get tired of the sermon.
Well, you hear it more than anybody
because
else.
By the time, it's done,
Yes.
I've done it so many times that I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, because it's not like you just hear it for the services. You're
Right.
writing it. You're practicing it. You are refining it.
Well, just doing it so many times.
Yes.
But the candles, every time, especially from where I stand, you get to see all the candles lit up and the people coming. It's one of those moments where you're like, wow, look at the people just embracing this moment and what it could mean is fun for me. So I appreciate you saying the sermon. Was that your honest answer?
It's usually pretty good.
I hope so, but okay.
My son still remembers the one year when you gave everyone a Lego piece.
There you go.
I will say that my family's tradition with the candles is as soon as Silent Night is over and you pray, that's go. And it's whoever can blow out the other person's candle faster. And so
funny.
we have this really holy moment where we're praying, and then it's like as you're getting to the end of your prayer, I'm strategically moving my candle away from me, but not burning my hair, so that I can blow out my husband's candle before he blows out mine.
Okay, all right.
So
a little competition in the candle
why
lighting.
not?
Yeah, it makes sense. So.
Okay, so we agreed on one thing. Mm-hmm. And it was a thing we didn't like. Mm-hmm. So that's going great. So, Kurt, here's the thing. So I've been doing my counseling internship.
Yep.
I've got folks that I have been meeting with for months. Mm-hmm. Coming into the holiday season, a lot of people are walking into my office with a lot of, well, what if this, what if this, what if this? Mm-hmm. So I am not getting specific information for specific clients or asking Kurt to solve my problems. However, here are some common questions that I have seen a lot of people in my life asking.
Okay.
So, what would you tell a person who they've got really significant anxiety going into a holiday meal, a tradition, like maybe it's one of those families where everyone gets together and makes cookies for a day, like whatever kind of holiday tradition or meal they're heading into. And they've got a lot of worry about what might happen.
Stop it. I'm just kidding. There's a great sketch from Bob Newhart, an old comedian, where he played the counselor therapist, and somebody came in who was anxious about something, and his thing was stop it. He said, so I have 2 words for you. Just write this down. Stop it. Anyway, Google it. You'll laugh. It's good. If somebody's anxious, ultimately you have to get to the root of your anxiety to some extent. What is causing your anxiety? Certainly the scriptures says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication, make your requests be made known unto the Lord, unto God. That's Philippians 4.
I was going to say, you need a reference there, buddy.
So to say don't be anxious but pray is a way of saying give it to God, but you have to know what you're actually giving. Like to say, oh, just pray about it and you won't be anxious. You probably have to actually identify what is it specifically that makes me anxious about this interchange so that you're able to then say, God, would you help me in the midst of this this time?
I think that's such an important point because I know a lot of people think that they kind of have an underdeveloped theology of prayer. And they think that, well, I prayed, so magic words have been said, therefore my anxiety should just go away. And if my anxiety didn't just magically go away after I prayed about it one time, then God must not be in charge. And it's like, well, no, that's just not how prayer works.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I would tell this person is, what can you be in control of? And, you can be in control of when you get there, when you leave, what you talk about while you're there, who you sit next to whenever you're there sometimes. You can be in control of how regulated you are leading up to the event. And a lot of that, if you're a Christian, is going to be prayer. Of, I think one of my favorite, if I've got people in my life, hypothetically, that I would have this about, I do a lot of praying of, God, help me to see and love this person the way that you see and love this person. And kind of getting my heart right towards them.
Yep.
So that
That's a great
instead
idea.
of being afraid of what this person might do, I can kind of maybe not be on the offense with love, but,
Yeah.
like
Well, there's a choice that
proactive
you
about it.
make in any situation to say, I'm either going to react and let this upset me in the day. Like if you know that somebody's going to be, let's say, difficult around even how the meal is prepared and make a snarky comment about, oh, that's what you brought, or whatever it is. And you just have a sense that that's how that'll go. You can choose ahead of time to say, I'm going to let that bother me, I'm going to do a thing, or I'm going to choose something different. There was one year we had hosted some family from out of town, and my wife had worked super hard on the meal,
And she's a good cook.
put it all together, and
She's a great cook.
and I wasn't helpful. It was Christmas Eve, so I hadn't been there.
You had a couple things to do that day.
And then Christmas Day, and they're well into their teen years child didn't come down for the meal. They weren't feeling good. And then as soon as we'd cleaned up and put all the dishes away, they were, oh, I just need to get some food for my child and take it up to the room. And I kind of had my, oh, no, you don't moment where I'm thinking, wait a second. They're well enough to eat now, but not when we had the meal, to not come down. It was
You're
just
feeling really defensive for faith.
of faith, absolutely. And if I had been a little more prayerful ahead of time, I wouldn't call it anxiety provoking for me,
Frustration.
but it was a moment of saying, I'm letting their preferences and way of doing things irritate me instead of choosing to say, let's focus on how to love in the moment and choosing my reaction. And I felt like I was defending kind of faith in the moment, but not the faith. My wife's name is Faith, if you're unaware. But it was also just my frustration.
Yeah.
If I'm really, looking at it. So.
Well, and then that's also another good point of like, you probably walked in there, you had spent a lot of late nights working here at the church, doing good work, great sermons. And so even just in making sure that you had like been sleeping well enough and taking care of all the other things that we can do to kind of regulate our nervous system. Sometimes you're able to do that ahead of time and sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
And so being in control of what you can be in control of, I think is
well put. So.
a good thing to do. All right, next question. I'm sure that this will not affect any of us. What about you walk into a holiday event, a holiday meal, and there are people who have lots of loud political beliefs that are maybe different than yours. Now, granted, I'm very much differentiating between, like, I have family and friends that vote differently than I do, and it's not an issue. But I also have other people in my life who are quite vocal to the point of agitation, like almost wanting to bring it up, wanting to start a fight, wanting to kind of stoke the fires. So would you ever consider not attending something where you know it's just going to be a fight?
Personally, no. I would go and deal with it. This is probably more information than anybody needs, but I'm probably more inclined to be the person who would see that there's two people on opposite sides, bring it up, watch them go at it, and leave the room after they get going.
Kurt, no.
And because I think that's kind of funny. And
You're not invited to my cookie making day.
you know, all I would say is if you take it that seriously, you're, you know, a few weeks back or whenever you're listening to this, Brady Randall did the message, and he talked about how
Another good sermon.
how you know, the people that you're voting for won't be at your funeral. And I thought it was so well put, because people get all amped up and end up fighting with people who are their family, who they do have a deep connection with, about things and people that will never be part of their day-to-day life. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, and I think there probably should be some healthy discussion in families. That's a really good place to sometimes have that discussion. Maybe not at Thanksgiving dinner, maybe not for Christmas dinner, but and so to me, it's like, why hide from it? Why hide from the differences? You can have some conversation. What's happened, and maybe this is probably why I say I wouldn't, and I kind of find it almost funny to bring it up, is I think our political discourse has so vilified the other side that that there's a moral superiority often that comes into it. And there may be, like I'm not saying that there isn't a better position or a moral position, but to assume that everybody who holds the opposite position is therefore immoral, stupid, somehow bent on the destruction of everything that's good and right, and is I think assuming the worst rather than going in and saying maybe these people have other reasons for their political views that I could listen to and learn from, and maybe I would have a chance to explain some of where I come down, and it doesn't have to be this contentious thing. Now, I realize when you're...
That's ideal.
And what you're talking about is when you know somebody's going to get amped up.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with it? So sometimes avoiding the conversation, like if my family, extended family, were more like, oh, this really is going to be ugly, I probably wouldn't throw the bomb in the middle of the room and walk out.
That's wise.
Because I'd be like, okay, this is actually going to really get ugly. For me, it's more entertaining because people can kind of go at it and then be like, let's go have the mashed potatoes with 2 sticks of butter.
So if you are a part of a family who, like Kurt's, could have a civil engagement after that kind of a thing, cool. Awesome. Not everybody has that.
So what do you do?
So I have boundaries. So for instance, I have a very dear family member who has very, very strong political beliefs that I do not share, that I find harmful. And so I have kind of basically said to this person, hey, when we're together, you and I can talk about stuff. That's fine, because we're adults. When my kids are in the room, this topic is not coming up. If it does, we're going to go home.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people think of boundaries as, you'd better not do that. But that's just a rule. And so a boundary is something that if you do this, then I will do this. You know? And so with this particular family member, I've said, hey, like if it comes up, you get one, like, hey, stop it. Let's change the topic. If you keep going, I'm packing up my family and leaving, because I don't want
your kids in
my
the middle
kids
of that.
to be in the midst of such a contentious thing with someone that I want them to have a positive relationship with.
Yep.
And we have been really, really careful about how we talk to our kids and trying to, in the name of Christ, honor and respect lots of different kinds of people, even if we don't agree with them on things. And so...
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a time for that. If you have, you know, somebody in the way that they talk about an issue is demeaning to people, to groups of people, is dismissive in a way that is dismissive of people. I also think that sometimes it's good to let kids see differences of opinion, even ugly discussion, and then use it as a teaching moment.
Yeah.
To say, so what did you think when Uncle so-and-so said that? How do you see it? Here's how I see it.
Yeah.
And so one of our things when our kids were younger was trying to use every moment as a teaching moment, not real formally, but just, okay, hey, they're all gone now, and let's not just act like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Let's actually talk about what was said and how that went down, I think can also be an approach.
I think that's one of the, so I'm so sorry I keep touching it. I'm so sorry about the noise, guys. One of the things that I had to do with my grandma has passed. My grandma in her old age had no filter and would say all sorts of things to people. And she would often make derogatory comments about people's weight. Not necessarily as a super healthy person herself. And so I would say for the last 20 years of her life, she pulled we all have to get together because it might be my last Christmas for 20 years. So it still might have been, but we were all together, and then she would always make comments about me, about my husband, about my kids, and not like straight to your face. Like, oh, you packed it on this year, didn't you?
Wow.
And
That's her fault.
I wasn't going, it was not great. So what I had to do, because I wasn't going, that was a kind of a family thing where I was like, okay, the family connection is more important than what you're going to say to me, because objectively I'm fine, and I know that you're just wrong and mean, and I'm not going to let your wrong and mean comment ruin my kids' connection with their cousins and aunts and uncles and everybody. So, like, in those moments, I was just like, hey, Grandma, that's super mean. Stop it. And then we walked away. Like, I called it out in the moment, and then I was like, all right,
let it go.
I'm going to go get another dessert. So I deflected, like,
watch this.
Stood up. So, I very much was like, I called it out in the moment, and then I was like, you don't get to ruin my day. Also, I am going to go have another dessert because
it's Christmas.
It's Christmas, and Aunt Nancy's Cherry Jubilee only comes out once a year, so got to get some of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really, I feel like this is the thing you should always do, because every family dynamic is different.
Yeah.
And your priorities are going to be different. Like, there's people who your connection with them is not necessarily more important than the emotional and mental safety of your children.
Right.
And there's other people who, not that, it's more important, but that
you're going to teach your kids how to deal with less than perfect treatment. And I think that's a great model even for your kids to say, you're not going to say that to me without me pushing back.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be mean or run home.
Yeah.
Because then you're almost...
Then they win.
And then you're teaching something that says, I'm so fragile that if somebody says something I don't like, we have to leave. Or I get a pass then to be mean. Or I'm so intimidated by it that I don't say anything. And so that's, if you can find that strength to do that way, that's well done. Nicely done.
All right, I've got one last really tough question for you.
Okay.
It might seem easy, but I think it's very nuanced. Okay, so let's say you are getting together, there's a family member who is really actively supporting a cause, an idea, a stance that you feel is against the teachings of Jesus. How would you handle that situation? Especially when I think some people say that they are doing that, because I'm a Christian, I think that da-da-da-da-da. And they're kind of almost going against the teachings of Jesus in their view because of their faith.
You're right that it's not as simple as it sounds, because there are a lot of layers and situations that might be different. Meaning, hey, we're at Christmas dinner and they happen to bring up said cause, is different than come to an event that promotes said cause, is different than you showing up at the event implies your support of the event, and so on and so forth. So there's nuance to that. On a whole, though, people are going to believe and do what people want to do. And I have been very comfortable both as a person with family members and as a pastor saying it's not my job to convince everybody to believe or behave the way that I choose to believe or behave based on my conviction. It's my job to believe and behave according to my conviction and to sometimes express it, but not even always, because then I move into trying to convince everybody that my approach is correct. Now, of course, we all believe our approach is correct. And I don't mean by this just to say, oh, everybody has their own opinion and every opinion's equally valid, therefore everything is okay. But I think Christian people often believe that they haven't communicated their view enough if they don't have a strong come to Jesus moment. You started with that little goofy game, stuffing or mashed potatoes, and it was just, what's your favorite side dish?
I'm okay with the stuffing and mashed potatoes. I'm still disturbed by the fact that you don't opt into listening to Christmas music.
But
we'll talk about that later.
But here's my point of that is I could try to convince you that stuffing is awesome, and it's not going to change your view in all likelihood, no matter how much I talk about it. And as soon as you put morality into it, now there's also a pride that says, even if I come to believe you're right, I don't want to admit you're right because of just the way we're wired. And so usually it's better to say, why don't you try a little bit of stuffing with your mashed potatoes? And the stuffing I've had is way better. I'm all for being
fed by your family.
Than it is to say you need to repudiate mashed potatoes in favor of stuffing. And I think that's more a winsome approach and a better approach to faith and moral issues than it is to try to say especially interpersonally. Now, again, I think as a church there are times to say, hey, we're taking a stand on what we believe Scripture teaches. And if you don't like it, we're sorry. This is that's a little different than an interpersonal piece of that, because what you want and ultimately is people to say there might be something to the way that you choose to live or the way that you choose to believe that I actually want in my life, rather than to be argued. People don't get argued to new positions. They get they get drawn.
I wish more people on social media understood that you can't argue, and me saying, well, this is what I think and this is what I think and here's a meme and here's a link and da 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 da, like that's not going to convince anybody.
Yeah.
And
well, especially on social media, it becomes a value or a virtue signal to people who you already agree with you, where what you're doing is you're saying, I want everyone who agrees with me to see how strong I am on this. You're not actually convincing that person. And we did a politics podcast a while back, and one of the things that I said, I was talking with Ashley Nardone about that, and one of the things we said was go talk to actual people rather than posting. Have a neighbor over who has a different political sign, and obviously once political signs are done, won't be a thing, but have them over, have a dessert, and have an actual conversation and say, hey, I noticed you had the sign up. I'm kind of on the other side. Tell me what you like, why you're here. And what you'll find is when you actually have a conversation, it's a whole different thing than when you're throwing an argument into the into the ethos that's just out there somewhere. And so, yeah, I think that's so much more healthy if we can live there.
I think there are so many people that really feel like Jesus needs them to defend him. That's not our job. You know, if you call yourself a Christian, your job is to love like Jesus loved, live like Jesus lives. You know, like, it's not to get out there and start fights with folks. And I think I think you brought up such a good point in that it's in the interpersonal conversations. It's in the being gracious towards someone that they are way more likely to have an honest, even-toned conversation about it, where maybe there might be a better exchange of ideas. And then you can learn to see them and understand them and care for them better.
Yeah.
And they can...
And you might even find that your perception changes, at least in part. Like, you may start saying, oh, I thought this was a slam dunk. And as you hear somebody actually articulate their view, you may say, oh, that's more nuanced, more dynamic than I first thought that it was. And maybe there's something else here I need to consider in how I think about it. And again, I think that's where our nation, especially, and Christians as well, have gotten so caught into this, we want to virtue signal and create the I have it all buttoned down, rather than I can learn and grow. And I'm just old enough that I remember life before social media, where you were actually forced to have those conversations with actual people, rather than just, I'm just doing it here. And there was something good in that. And I think that's part of why we're so polarized as a nation.
I think that's a really good point. So,
well, great. Well,
in conclusion, Google some breathing exercises to do on your way to these places where you feel like it might be contentious. I recommend box breathing. It's great. And love people. And sometimes loving people means that you're not going to be comfortable. And I don't think that, like, as we look at this concept as a whole, I don't think a Christian's goal is to only participate in conversations where they know that they will be in the majority. I don't think that the goal should be I'm only going to do things that are entirely safe, where I'm only with the people that agree with me. But sometimes the holidays are a good time for families to come together, for there to be this bringing together of differences that I think we all would need and benefit from.
Well, let me even put it this way. If you consume media, media. now you're in the stop it. You're channeling your Bob Newhart. If you consume media, what makes media interesting is having a strong take. So, for example, I don't want to listen to a sports talk radio who's like, Justin Fields, you know, and who's the other one?
I don't
who's the quarterback? Russell Wilson. They're both good options. You want somebody
I need you to know that until you said quarterback, I didn't even know what sport you were talking about.
Until you say, oh, Russell Wilson's awesome and Justin Fields isn't, or Justin Fields, it's not that interesting.
Yeah.
And so what we do with politics, even spirituality, is we want somebody who says, oh, it's this way, everybody else is stupid, immoral, all of that. But that makes for good media, and clickbait, it doesn't make for good relationships.
Doesn't make for a good life.
And so, again, to say, maybe it isn't as interesting not to have a strong take. And again, I'm not saying there isn't a strong take, but to be so definitive, because like even on talk shows, you know what they're doing pre-production is they're sitting there and saying, okay, you take this side, you take this side. It doesn't really matter what you believe, because that's what makes it interesting.
We did not do that for our game,
no, we
just
did
so
not.
you know.
So well, thank you, Jenna.
Thank you so much. I think this was a good conversation. I hope you are able to have some really good conversations with your friends and family this holiday season following this.
And check out all of the stuff at Orchard Hill Plus for great content, 5 good minutes, the good books, the perspectives, and all the classes and things that are there.